เป็นเรื่องของ stress intonation และก็ reduce forms และต่อไปนี้ก็จะเป็นเรื่องของการ practice speaking กันที่เราสามารถที่จะนำเทคนิคนี้มาใช้ในการที่จะเป็นการฝึกหัดให้นักเรียนออกเสียงก็จะเป็นเรื่องของ pronunciation in use ซึ่งอาจารย์เดวิดก็จะบรรยายต่อไปเลยขอเรียนเชิญเลยครับ
Presentations with your students in the classroom, do you ever ask your students to come out the front and present something? Do you? Yes. Yeah? But like something like their homework or maybe read something from a book. And when they come out to the front of the classroom, do they sort of come out like this and then okay. There are also differences in the way that people pronounce consonants. Probably the most prominent difference here is with those who speak Aliwa. Rhotic dialects of English, like that, Is that familiar with you? Are your students a bit like that? They tend to read one word at a time. Yes. Have your students ever met a foreigner? Have you ever seen your students meet a foreigner? A lot of tourists. Yes. Yes. Yes, exactly. And do they sometimes, especially the younger ones, do they sometimes panic when they meet a foreigner and they don't know what to say? And they're thinking to themselves, oh, what's the correct thing? And they're trying to remember from their English book in class, oh, what do I say, And so then they just say nothing, like that. Yes. I think we need to give our students more practice in being more natural with their English. When we speak English in practice in the real world, it's not one word at a time like that. We speak English in hills and valleys. Ajahn Pachari was talking about that before, I think, yesterday when she was talking about sentence stress. I'm going to leave that there for a moment. When we speak English, we emphasize some words, and our voice goes up and down. Some words don't get emphasized very much. Some words are louder than other words, and they're higher than other words. Some words are quieter. So when I teach my students to present and to speak English, I tell them two things. Make it smooth. Smooth. Not like this, Don't speak like this. And in fact, sometimes I think that when they do a presentation and they want to do it correctly, so they try to say every word very clearly, but it doesn't sound like real English. With real English, we put the words together. It flows. It's not like that, So when I sometimes do exercises with my students about coming out in front of the class and reading something with a nice flowing voice, like that. But another problem is that they have it in front of them. And so it's difficult for them. They put their nose in the book, They put their nose in the book, like that. And they don't speak to you, they don't look at you. Anyway, I've got some ideas about how you can overcome that as well. But first of all, an exercise about sentence stress. We did the stress of a syllable before. Well, there's also stress of a sentence. I've got 2 sentences there. What I'd like you to do is, I'd like you to read those sentences and think to yourself, what words would you stress if you said this sentence and this sentence here? You see, there's no rule. It's up to you. When we speak in English, you have to choose which words you put a stress on. And when you speak, you have to make a hill on that word. The other words, no word stress. It's okay, just let them go down there quieter. But with a sentence, choose 2 or 3 words that you think are important for the meaning of the sentence. Often we put sentence stress on the words which have content, information, content in a sentence. The words which are more like grammar words, you know, they don't normally get so much stress. So we might choose a couple of words in the sentence which have the main idea, the main content of the sentence. For example, the curtains were pulled open by hand. So if I was going to say that, I'd say, the curtains of his bed were pulled open by a hand. I might decide that I want to emphasize the bed as well. So it's not the curtains of the window, it's the curtains around his bed. So it was the curtains of his bed were pulled open by a hand. Did you notice that by a, they become very small? It just becomes like by a. Yeah, by a hand. By a hand. By a hand. The curtains of his bed were pulled open by a hand. So by a becomes by a. Were becomes like were. Were pulled open. Were pulled open. Were pulled open. It becomes very small. Were becomes were. That's what we call reduced forms. A lot of the words get very small. They get very short. And a lot of the sounds of the word get lost. You usually find that the most with the most common words. For example, it's open. If you say that quickly, it becomes it's open. If you say it really quickly, it might just become like it's open. It's open. Something like that, yes. You see? And the words go together. They sit against each other. There's no break between the words or the syllables, you know? The words go together. That's why I say hills and valleys to my students. Who'd like to say the second sentence? Another thing I should point out to you is that we have breaks at the end of a word, when we're pronouncing a word, and we have breaks sometimes in the middle of the word if there's an oral stop. Well, also when we speak English, sentences, we also have some breaks. We have a break at the end. We usually have a little break at the commas, like that, and little breaks between phrases. So you don't have to say the whole sentence all at one time. You can have a little break in the middle of the sentence. And often we just have a little break at the commas, places like that. So you might say the first part as one sound and then stop for a second. So you say, Scrooge sat up and found, Scrooge sat up and found, blah, 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 blah. We often have little breaks like that. Who'd like to have a go? Now, remember, you don't have to be perfect because it's up to you how you say it. So who'd like to have a go? Don't be shy. Who'd like to just say that sentence? Any volunteers? Would you like to say that sentence? Yep.
Scrooge sat up and found himself face to face with the unlikely visitor.
Okay. Again, please. And that's good. Just a little smoother. Just a little bit smoother. Okay.
Scrooge sat up and found himself face to face with the unlikely visitor.
Good. Okay. That's not bad. Who else would like to have a go? Who'd like to have a go? Oh, sorry. Unearthly. Unearthly. Yes. It's actually a ghost story, and the unearthly visitor is a ghost. You see? Not from Earth means unearthly. Who'd like to have a go? Would you like to have a go?
Scrooge sat up and found himself face to face with the unearthly visitor.
That was very good. Did you hear that? It was quite smooth. You got a little bit stuck on unearthly. That's okay, no problem. Some words are difficult to pronounce, but apart from that, that was quite smooth. Who'd like to have a go?
Scrooge sat up and found himself face to face with the earthly visitor.
Good. Yes, again, that was good. Okay.
Scrooge sat up and found himself face to face with the unearthly visitor.
Good. That's fine. Yes. And I like the way you divide the sentence up into parts as you read it. That's good. Now, you're good. You're quite good at doing that. You're quite good at English. But your students might need a fair bit more work than that to do it. Now, I have an exercise, and even when you ask them, please make it a little more smooth, it's very difficult for them, They find it very difficult to smooth their sentences. One problem is they find it very difficult not to read each word. They really do that a lot. They read each word, one word at a time. There's an exercise you can do to help avoid that and help them with their pronunciation of sentences. Do you know graded readers? Graded readers, they're storybooks. They're written at a simple level for the students. And I use them sometimes for activities in class. This is a simple one. This is quite simple. It's got a sentence length of about 7 words, average about 7 words. So they can read a sentence and remember it. All right? Now, here's the next exercise. What they do is, they read a sentence, then they have to look up and look in your eyes and say the sentence. Don't look at the book like this, okay? They have to read it, look up, and say the sentence, okay? Right, so Clive Darby put down his paintbrush. He looked at his painting. You see? Like that. Okay, so make them do it. And what I often do is, I get my students around in a circle, right? And I pass the book around. I say, let's do some reading, okay? can we do that just for a little bit? Can we have a go? So, can you start? And I want you just to read one sentence at a time, and then look in my eyes and tell me the sentence. Okay. Okay, okay, next. Yeah.
It looked like his painting. Life was freeze. The painting was beautiful.
Good. Okay, next person, please.
The door of Cliff's room opened.
Okay, look in my eyes. It's okay. And I tell you don't have to be quick. You don't have to be fast. Just take your time. Just read it. Okay? And then look up. Speak the sentence. Okay?
And a young man came in. His name was Andy Banks.
Okay, look in my eyes.
He was wearing a black suit and carrying a sports bag.
Good, thank you. Okay, next student. Next teacher.
Cliff and Andy.
Look in my eyes.
Cliff and Andy lived in the same house. They were both.
Slow down, slow down, slow down. This is what I tell them. I say, take your time. It's okay. We've got time. Okay? So read it, just one sentence, and then look up and say it.
They were both art students.
Okay, yeah. Fine. Oh, no, we can stop now. But do you get the idea? And that way, reading like that, you can get them to focus on what they're saying rather than focusing on the book like that. Okay? Get them to focus on it. And if you're not happy with the way they say it, like if they say, we've been following the wrong van, then you can say, okay, we've been following the wrong van. We've been following the wrong van. Okay, and get them to say it again. Okay, so you've got time to stop them and get them to do it again if you're not happy. Sometimes when they're out the front doing a presentation and you want them to say something again, it's difficult because you don't want to interrupt them. But if you just go through a text just one sentence at a time, you can stop them and you can help them to pronounce the sentence. Okay? Now, another problem I mentioned before is that they're too text bound. You know, they're too tied up to the text, and they always look at the text when they're reading. Okay? My students are often too scripty when they do their presentations. They write out a script of everything. Now that's okay for you guys because, you know, if you're doing a television presentation to script everything, but I think it's not good for the students. It's not good for the students because then they write out every word and then they stand up and they just read it. And they're not practicing their speaking because they're just reading the words on the page. You understand? So with their presentations, if you want to stop them from being too tied to the text, you can do some classroom activities that help them to stand up and think and talk on the spot rather than just reading. And one exercise I like to do is 1 + 1. 1 + 1. 1 minute to get ready, 1 minute to talk. Okay? So, I'm going to tell you a question. I'm going to give you 1 minute to get ready, and then I'm going to choose 2 people, okay? And it could be you. It could be you, okay? So you ready? I'm going to give you 1 minute to think, and then you have to come out here, and you have to talk for 1 minute. Okay? Okay? Right? The topic is, and you have 1 minute, a place where you went for a holiday that you enjoyed. Tell me about that place. You have 1 minute to get ready, okay? Think. A place where you went for a holiday, you enjoyed it. You have 30 seconds to think. Okay, you ready? You've thought of something you can tell us? Just for 1 minute. Okay, and the winner is you. Let's go. Come on, hustle. Okay? I don't believe you've never been on a holiday ever in your life, even when you were a little kid. You never went on holiday with your parents? No. The last time even if you went shopping somewhere one day, come and tell us about it. Can't, don't be shy. Okay, everybody, give her a round of applause so she doesn't feel so shy. Okay, just 1 minute. Okay. Why do you choose you? Because you're such a good student. No. Okay, let's go.
So, only 1 minute.
Just 1 minute.
Last vacation I went to Chiang Mai. Okay. Last vacation I went to Chiang Mai, so I had a good time there, but maybe the weather wasn't very good. It rained a lot, so I didn't go anywhere at all. That's it? Is it 1 minute? Is it time?
That's 45 seconds.
All right.
So, how'd you get there?
I went there by what? I went there by train, Sprinter. Okay. It took about 12 hours from Bangkok, from Ho Lamphong train station.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
See, it's not so hard, is it? It's not so hard, is it? No, it's not hard. Do you think it's hard? No? Okay, you're next.
Maybe you could try another one.
But I like you. Come on.
Okay.
No, it doesn't mean I love you. Just I like you. Okay, go.
Sorry. My last vacation, I've been to Kangaroo Island in South Australia. It's a very good place and it's very fantastic. I like it very much. And I saw many kinds of animals live there. And I spent about 3 days there, and I had got very good time there. And I think everything is very different from the islands in our country, but I still love the island in our country is better, especially Phuket and Samui Island. Okay, and we have been around the island for 3 days, and I've seen many things.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
One more time. Are you ready? You ready? What's your favorite TV show? Got 1 minute. What's your favorite TV show, and tell me about it? Tell me anything about it that you like. 1 minute. Okay, you ready? You ready? Okay. Would you like to have a go? Oh, you think I should give him a break? Okay. Do you think that I should give him a break? Do you think that I should? Yeah, okay. You can come up instead. Come on, come on. Come on, come on. You have to, no choice. Come on. Come on, come on, come on. Don't be shy. Don't worry, it's just 1 minute. Just one little minute. Okay, I'll let you just go for 59 seconds.
I like the Discovery Channel about some animal, some story told me that the story of under the sea is very story to see and to know about them.
Hang on. What places did they show? Did they show Thailand or all around the world?
The world.
Like what places have you seen recently? Like, can you tell us about some of the places you saw? Time's up. Well, that was okay. That was okay. You got a little bit stuck, but you kept it going for about 3/4 of a minute, so that's okay. And sometimes your students, at first they feel a bit shy and they feel a bit on the spot, you know. But if you do it a few times, then they become more comfortable about doing it. And in fact, they feel happy about doing it. Another thing that you can do is get the students to bring something from their home, something which is important to them. It could be something like a watch that their father gave to them, or something like that. So ask them one day to go home and get something which they really love, and bring it the next day and present it to the class and explain about it. And from activities, little activities like that, you can go to bigger activities like debating. I've actually had debates in my class before, quite a lot of times, and often they're very successful and the students really get into it, you know. And I say to them, you've only got a maximum of 5 minutes to speak. And they go, Ajahn, you know, I can't speak for 5 minutes. And so I say to them, well, don't worry then, just come up and speak. And it's a maximum of 5 minutes, you know, not a minimum, it's a maximum of 5 minutes. And so oftentimes when they get up and there's a debate about some topic, then after 5 minutes I have to tell them, you know, stop, and they don't want to stop, you know, they want to keep on going. Especially if an argument starts in the class, you know, because with a debate you have two sides, a yes and a no. And sometimes they just want to keep going. They want to keep arguing their point. So that's another presentation activity you can use for more advanced students. But in the beginning, you can do little activities of free speaking like that, coming out the front and doing some free speaking. Now I've almost finished. Just some general pointers, I suppose, about pronunciation. I'm not too strict on my students about every pronunciation word, you know? And in fact, if my students are speaking in front of the class, I don't stop them when they're speaking. And I don't go, I don't correct them, you know, when they're speaking, only if it's specifically a pronunciation exercise. But for other exercises about speaking, I don't correct them. If you are concerned about your students' pronunciation, what you can do is, when they're speaking in front of the class, you just sit back and just take some notes and listen to what they're saying. And if there's a problem, just take a note of the difficult words, the words that they can't say. And then later, sometime, you can do an exercise to practice those words. Another tip is about speaking and pronunciation in general. I often ask questions to my students, and you know, do your students often give a one-word answer? When you ask them a question, they give a one-word answer to your question. Like you might ask, what do you think about speaking English? And you ask someone, what do you think about it? And they just say, oh, difficult. Just one word, you know? So when I ask my students questions and they give a short answer, like one word, if I don't understand what they mean, I always ask them. I say, well, you know, what do you mean, difficult? What do you mean by that? And then they say, oh, well, I mean that it's difficult to say the words sometimes. And so I try to get more information from them. I don't let them get away with a one-word answer unless it's good enough, you know. If their answer's not good enough, I ask them for more information. I ask them, you know, what do you mean? What do you mean when you say that? And I ask them to explain more to me. Okay, so do you have any questions about anything, about teaching pronunciation or teaching listening and speaking skills in general? Any questions you'd like to ask?
I suppose why not listen to your if you choose one function and reflect in speaking after the presentation, and then what should the teacher do with the mistake? Do we have to correct it immediately, or do we have to correct it later?
Yeah, it depends on the context. If you're doing some kind of practice activity where you are practicing the correct way to speak things, then yes, I would gently correct them on that. But if it's another activity, say if you're asking them, if you're having a talk in class about some social problem, and then they make that mistake again, the mistake that you were doing before, then I wouldn't stop them then, because it's a real conversation killer. You know what I mean? If you correct the students on their speaking, it kills the conversation. okay? So if they're still making the same mistake again, well, that's normal, you know? That's normal for Thai students, for any students in a foreign language, is that you teach them something, but often they'll make the same mistake again later, okay? Because it takes time to learn. So don't panic, and only correct them on the spot if it's appropriate. If you're doing another drill, then yeah, correct them again. But if it's another activity, then just wait. Don't correct them then, just wait, and then do the exercise again later to review it again.
So that you mean, is it necessary for us to correct them, or we just keep in mind as they
It's up to you. You can just you can correct it then if you think that it's appropriate, or if you think it's going to kill the conversation, then don't. You can decide to correct it later on. And another thing is, remember that that a Thai person who learns English will never have perfect pronunciation, because that's true all around the world of anybody who learns a foreign language. If you learn a foreign language, unless you're a very small child, you will always have an accent. And probably you'll always make some small mistakes. But don't worry, because in English, we have so many different accents of English in the world. We have so many different cultures who speak English, and they all have their own little problems, you know. So when I listen to people who speak English, I can understand. And if they make a mistake in their pronunciation, I'm not going to die, you know. I'm not going to panic, because that's normal, you know. I accept it. And it's okay, you know. And where I come from, Sydney, we have a lot of people from different cultures, and they have many, many different ways to speak English. And when I go around and I speak to people, I can understand perfectly what they're saying, even though their pronunciation is quite different to mine. Yeah. So don't panic, and don't be too strict on your students, because they'll never be perfect. But that's okay.
By the way, do you have any recommendation about how to arouse and student who rather shy and they don't like to speak English anymore? So do you have any recommendation on this?
Yeah. Well, that's quite a common problem, isn't it? Some students, they feel a bit shy, they feel not confident about their speaking ability. Sometimes it takes some time. I've noticed that some students, they spend like 6 months sitting there saying nothing, and then one day they start speaking, and you can't stop them. Sometimes that person just needs some time. But another thing is with Thai students, they often need a little bit of structure, a little bit of help to get started. Like, one thing that I found is often not very successful is free discussion in a small group. Because, you know why? Because they all talk Thai, you know? But if you start at the beginning, if you give them a little bit of structure and activity to start them speaking English, like what I said about coming up and speaking for 1 minute, something like that, where they have to speak English, to give them a little bit of experience at the beginning, then once they feel more confident, then they will start to speak English more freely, and you don't have to control them so much. So yeah, I say with shy students who don't want to speak much, yeah, maybe don't worry about it too much, because it's not necessarily a big problem. And the other thing is, try to get them involved in some activities with some structure, where there's a job that they have to do in speaking, to give them a little bit of experience, and then hopefully later on they'll get it. Yeah. Any other questions? can I tell you something that I advise my students? I often find that in my classes, the class divides into two groups. You have the group of students who are very good at English, and you have the group of students who are so-so. You know what I mean? And you can look around the classroom and you can say, you know, oh, like, you know, he's really good and he's not so good, and he's good and he's not so good, you know? You know what I mean? And often the good students get better, but the poorer students, they tend to just stay the same, you know? And this might relate to what you were asking before, because there are some students who just seem to bump along the bottom. You know, they don't ever really go up. So my class often gets divided into two groups of students. One group who progress quite nicely, and another group who, you know, they don't go very far with English, you know. Now, at various times, I've sat down with my students and I've had a conversation, and I've asked them, what do you do at home about homework and about English outside the class? And do you have any hobbies about English? And I always find that these students here who progress well, they have a hobby in English. Some of them love to read the newspaper. Some of them love to listen to the radio, or some of them have cable TV and they like to watch the movies. Some of them have the internet at home and they like to browse around on websites. And some of them have very specific hobbies, like one of my students likes to collect pop song lyrics, you know, the words from pop songs. And she likes to listen to the songs and read the lyrics. Okay? And it's like a hobby to collect the words for the songs. So what I find is that these students always have hobbies. These students, I ask them, like, you know, what do you do at night when you go home? And they say, oh, I'll watch TV, read a comic book, you know, the comic books, you know. I say, do you ever do English at home? And they say, oh, well, I do my homework, you know. And I ask them, do you have any hobbies in English? And they say, oh, I don't know, not really. I listen to pop music sometimes, you know. So these students, they tend to do their homework, and that's about it. That's all. And so I asked my class, where do you want to be? You want to be on this road, or do you want to be on this road? Where do you want to be? Yeah, they say the first one. They say, I want to be like this, you know? And some of my students, because it's a college, and their grades, you know, are a bit, you know, shaky, and so they're getting a bit worried that if it goes below 2, you know, their GPA goes below 2, they're worried about, oh, well, I might have to retire, you know. And so when I say, do you want to be like this? And they say, yes, I want to be like that. So I say, well, look, I always find that the students on the top road, they have their hobbies in English. And the students on the low road, they just do their homework only. And when I put it to them like that, when I say it like that, then they think about it, you know, they think. And I can see them thinking about it. And what I've noticed is that some of my students, who are the low students, after I show them that, I find out later that they got a hobby. I find out later that they got a hobby because of the two roads. I showed them the two roads, and they decided, yeah, I want a hobby. You know, I want to find a hobby in English, and so they find something because they believe it. They believe this. It's true because when they look around the class, and they look at their friends, they know that, oh, like he's good at English, he's the guru of English. And us guys over here, we're no good at English. They think we're no good. That's what they think. And when they need help, they go to the guru and ask, hey, can you help me with my homework, And so they know that there are two paths in the class, that there are two groups of students. There are the strong students and there are the so-so students. They know it. And when you tell them this, having a hobby, practicing at home, that's the feature of the strong students. That's the feature of the gurus. Then they think, yeah, maybe I should get a hobby too. But the most important thing I tell them, don't do it if you don't enjoy it. Okay? Some teachers will tell you, oh, you should read the newspaper, at home. You should read your dictionary every day. Okay? Did your teacher tell you that? Something like that? But I tell my students, if you don't enjoy it, don't do it. Because if you don't enjoy it, you're not going to do it. Come on, be realistic. You're not going to do it if you don't enjoy it. You'll do it for 1 week, and then you will stop. So if you want to do it really, if you want to have a hobby in English, you have to find something you enjoy. Okay? That's what I say to them. I say, you have to find something you enjoy. And so, the next question is, well, what can I do in English? What kind of hobby can I have in English? So what I do is, I go around the class and I ask everybody, hey, what's your hobby in English? What do you like doing?
Watching TV.
Yep. And then I ask for some details, like, what do you watch about English? What? Soccer. Great, yeah, okay, that's good. And then some of the others, they like soccer, and so they think, oh, okay, it's a good idea. And I ask him, what does he like? Ask her. And I go around the whole class, and I ask everybody, what do you like to do in English? And I get some ideas out of the class, and I make them think about it, what they might like to do as a hobby.
David, sometimes our students, especially Thai students, they don't know what they like. So I try to find a way to persuade them to do some hobbies. For example, if I have read some article that's I think they will like it. For example, the production of new album from the musical band, something like that. And I tell them in the classroom, and then I talk with them about the band, about their songs. Sometimes I show them the songs and talk about it. And next time I found that they try to find more information to talk with me in the class, in the classroom. Sometimes I think it's a bit easier if we start to talk with them about hobbies or entertainment or something like that to do.
Yes, that's an excellent idea. And if you give the students exposure, if you show them things that they didn't know before, then that can be a great way of doing it. Like, for example, if you give your students storybooks or something like that, then some of the students will really love it, Not everybody's going to like it. Like, some people will hate it, but some people are going to love it. And so that's good, because you introduce them to that. And yeah, there's so many different kinds of things and so many different kinds of materials that you can bring into the classroom to use for classroom exercises. And yeah, that's good, because you might give someone an idea. They might say, yeah, that's really cool, I like that. And then they take it up as a hobby. Yeah.
David, I'd like to talk with you about the way we can use to evaluate the pronunciation skill. As you know, we are Thai who teach English, right? sometimes we need to grade the student in pronunciation
Yes, yes.
to give them the point, the mark.
Yes.
Sometimes I have problem that their accent or their pronunciation, I don't know that is acceptable in the native speakers sense or not, or is unacceptable. Sometimes their pronunciation I think is good, but I don't know that it's acceptable for the native speakers or not, something like that. Do you have any suggestion about this case?
Yeah, the first thing I'd like to mention is I'm not really sure what people mean when they say correct pronunciation. And some people talk about that and they say correct pronunciation. But I don't know what that means. I mean, because everybody speaks differently and there are so many different accents. So if you want to mark your students on if they're correct or not, well, that's unrealistic. And if you say, oh, well, it's according to the dictionary, but as I showed you before, when we speak, real words, when we speak, they get reduced and we don't say them correctly. So that's not much help either. What I would suggest is if you want to assess them or evaluate them is, why not tape them? Give them a passage to read and tape them, and then take it away and listen to it. Now, some things, the criterion I would use is clarity. Not correctness, clarity. Can you understand what they're saying on the tape? Can you understand the words? Now, if you can understand the words that they're saying on the tape, then it's probably correct. And I would argue that maybe that's good enough. I mean, for a teacher, you're probably very busy, you're a busy person, and you don't have a lot of resources. If your students can speak clearly, if you can understand what they're saying on the tape, if you can hear the words properly, then that's good. That's fine. But if you're in doubt, and if you're not sure if you've done it right, then get a second opinion. Is there anybody else that you can consult at your school? Like, at your school, do you have any foreign teachers? Any foreign teachers at your school?
No, not now. Used to have. Used to have one, but not now.
Right.
Sometimes because it's a bit difficult for us, because we always know what they say. Our student is the same nationality. I mean, they are Thai, we are Thai.
Yes.
And we always understand what they teach, what they speak.
Yes. That's true.
Excuse me. So according to the question, that means for me to about marking or giving the grading for pronunciation. Suppose we have two ways to think about this. So the first one, we choose think about the purpose or the objective of learning. So which way that we would like to focus them to go on. Suppose if you would like them to learn about giving direction. So if they can communicate with each other, that means another one understand, or they can go to the direct way. So that's it. Okay, that is a good. Okay, that's it. But don't think too much about the grammatical way or something like that. But think about the objective of learning. That's the way I would like to give her a suggestion. So she should put the goal first. So which goal that she would like her student to get or to reach it. But if the student can do that one, okay, it doesn't matter. And I normally say, talk to my student that is, after conversation in our life, the foreigner or the foreign don't or doesn't give us grading. You get 10, you get 9, you get 8 like this, to make them arouse them to speak more. That's it. If they can understand each other, that's okay. So the conclusion that I would like her to make the goal or the objective of learning, what does he like his student to do or to able to do about one function. And the second way, if she would like to grading her student, that is, as you say, you ask her, that means do any volunteers at her student or not, but That's one way. If we can find the foreigner or the native speaker, but I say it might be difficult to do like this. You can ask them or invite them to the classroom, and after we have taught our student already, we can check by let the native speaker. That means I concern with the support. We are talking about giving direction. Okay, if they can talk or they can give the direction to that native speaker, okay, that means they yield the best result. That means the good grade for the student. That means A or B plus or something like this, given ourselves.
Exactly,
But
yeah.
it's something about listening either, because you can talk, but the one who listen to you, they understand context or not, what you speak or not. So it's not just only the pronunciation skills, but it also includes the listening skills of another people who listen to you either.
It is that mean if I know this, that means pronunciation. With my concern with both listening and speaking. Okay, but that means if they understand the question from the foreigner, that means their listening is good, and they can speak out. That means their speaking is good. So it's we cannot separate listening and speaking altogether. So we should be. That means it's go with each other, right?
Yes.
So if you're listening and you understand, so you can speak and you can answer that one. So the commentary is right, or is you have the bad reason.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, there are sometimes problems, and you know, I find this a lot with people who are not first language speakers speaking to other people who are not first language speakers. For example, a Korean person speaking to an Indian person in English. I find that they're the ones who have the most problem. I know that you often worry about foreigners, you know, will the foreigners understand me? But actually, the foreigners, because we have a lot of exposure to different people speaking English, it's not hard. We can understand a lot of people speaking English the way they speak English. But other foreigners from countries like Japan or China, you might have a problem there. Sure. And it's not just your problem, it's also their problem as well. Because they have a problem listening to you, you have a problem listening to them, and also with speaking as well. It's a two-way problem. There's no easy solution for that. And so in that case, you have to, it's more important to be able to correct misunderstandings, to have feedback techniques in a conversation. I've spoken to a lot of Thai people who know some English, but then I say something they don't understand, and then they panic, they get stuck, they don't know what to do, you know? So perhaps something in that situation, we should teach our students some techniques for surviving in a difficult conversation, and teaching them to say, oh, you know, excuse me, what did you say? Could you please repeat that?
Yes.
And to have the confidence to say that. Yeah, but I would emphasize what he said, that it's really the purpose of the communication. And look, if you can understand what the students are saying, then what are you worried about? You know? They'll never be perfect. I'll never be perfect. Nobody's perfect in English. So I would focus on the clarity. Can you understand what the students are saying? Or are they having difficulty with some things? If they're having difficulty with something, then as a teacher, you have to be able to spot that and help them by giving them some more practice. in that.
I would like to ask some more. I know about that. She's worried about that pronunciation might be acceptable or not, because she is Thai and her student is Thai, so she's worried about this one, that will be acceptable or not. I know, and it's very hard to grade them and then to give them mark, something like this. But that means, so my suggestion that is I would like her to set the goal or the purpose of each function or each section that we go on.
Yes.
Okay. But don't be worried so one of these.
Yeah.
For what I mean, I think I normally I don't teach my student to believe or to speak on this kind pattern of pronunciation or accent. You understand? I teach them to think it's intelligibly. Okay, as you say, because many accents of English we use in the world, maybe Japanese or Singaporean or something like that. That's what I use in the class. I don't tell them to listen to me and remember it, but yes, I try to get more example from many sources and then let them think intelligible to apply, to use, to listen or to pronounce their English.
That's a good idea. You know, what I found with my students is I speak to them. At first, the new students, the first time I speak to them, they can't hear me. And even students who are good at English, I speak to them, they can't hear me, they can't understand me. For about 3 weeks, 4 weeks. But they get used to my accent. They get used to it, and then they can understand me. It just takes a few weeks for them to understand my voice. Yeah, I'll just wind up quickly. And it's the same thing with other people. Like, they get used to my voice, and then they meet somebody else, and they can't understand his voice. And then after a couple of weeks, they learn his voice. This is normal for speaking to other people with strange accents, that it takes a little time to get used to that accent. So my attitude is, give them, like you, give them exposure to different accents. Let them try different accents like English, American, Indian, Japanese, whatever. I mean, they're all different forms of English. So expose them. Let them see the different forms of English and give them some practice. And they'll pick it up. They'll pick it up. But if you teach them just one way, if you say, oh, the British way, you know, British English, you know, then probably they'll be good at that, but they might have some problems later on with other people who are not British. Any other questions or comments? Anything? You understand everything?
You just say, how do you understand it?
Okay, well, I'd just like to thank you very much for coming, and I had a good time. I hope you had a good time too. My email address is on the front. You're free to contact me anytime. I'd be happy to hear from you. If you ever want to send me an email, if you have email at your school. No copyright. You're free to copy this, and I'm going to put it on the internet so you can use it on your computer. You can edit it for your own class materials. Okay? Oh, that's okay. Now, if you don't have email, my mail address is Ratchapat Institute, UTR. Okay, David Nelson, Ratchapat Institute, UTR, Rojana Road. Yeah, That's Tambon, isn't it? Pailing. Tambon, Pailing. Ayutthaya, 13,000. Oh, sure. Yeah, if you're around, you might see me again in the future. So feel free to contact me about anything, you know, if you want to talk about anything. Okay. So, well, apart from that, I hope I see you again sometime in the future, and good luck.